Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're tackling something that I think we can all relate to. How do you give feedback that actually helps people grow instead of just making them put their walls up? Let's dive in. So think about it. What's that one conversation that most of us just dread? Yeah, for a lot of people, it's giving or getting feedback. It just feels so awkward, right? Sometimes even confrontational. But what if we've been looking at this whole thing completely backward? What if feedback isn't really about criticism at all, but about growth? Okay, so first up, let's talk about why feedback fails so often. Why does it backfire and just create resentment instead of actual results? Well, it pretty much always boils down to one simple little thing: blame. And this right here just nails the problem, doesn't it? On the left, you've got the blame game. It's an accusation. It's basically saying you messed up. Conversation over. But look at the right side. The whole focus shifts. It becomes about a shared problem that we can solve together. And that's not just about swapping out a few words. It's a total shift in the dynamic, moving from conflict to actual collaboration. This is the psychological trap that so many of us fall into. The second you tell someone they have to do something, their brain just kind of short circuits. You get what we call the 3 Rs: reluctance, resentment, and resistance. We're not inspiring change, we're literally building a wall against it. We're shutting down the very growth we're hoping to spark. All right, so let's pivot to a really powerful idea that can completely reframe this whole conversation. It's all about shifting our focus from, dissecting every little thing that went wrong in the past to building a better future. It's a concept called feed forward. Okay, so what's the big difference here? Well, feedback often gets stuck looking in the rear view mirror, right? It's all about analyzing what already happened, what went wrong. Feed forward, on the other hand, is about looking through the windshield. It's not about pointing out past mistakes. It's about working together to create a blueprint for success down the road. It feels way less like a judgment and a whole lot more like coaching. And this quote from Marshall Goldsmith just gets right to the heart of it. By focusing on potential, we're tapping into a growth mindset. All of a sudden, challenges aren't failures anymore. They're just opportunities to learn, to adapt, and to build new skills. See the difference? It's about building someone's confidence, not tearing it down. Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually do it? How do you put this idea into practice? Well, it's not as hard as you might think. Let's break down a simple but really powerful framework that takes a lot of the emotion and guesswork out of the whole thing. So this is the SBI model: situation, behavior, impact. And honestly, this can be your secret weapon for getting clarity. It forces you to step away from those vague, "I feel like you" kind of opinions and instead focus on what really happened. It gives you a structure, a roadmap to deliver feedback that's specific, objective, and, fair. The real magic of the SBI model is how it breaks the whole conversation down into these objective, non-debatable pieces. You start with the situation to set the scene. Then you state the facts of what happened, the behavior. And finally, you explain the result, the impact. By grounding the entire conversation in what actually happened, you just dramatically lower the odds of that defensive wall going up. And this brings us to another key piece: owning your perspective. When you start a sentence with "you," like "you shouldn't have done that," it just sounds like an accusation. But when you use I statements, especially when you're talking about the impact, you're just stating your experience. It's really the difference between pointing a finger at someone and just opening a window so they can see your point of view. Now, this last piece of the toolkit might just be the most important one. It's about turning a monologue into a dialogue. So after you've shared your observation using that SBI model, you absolutely have to invite the other person into the conversation. A simple open-ended question like, "What was your perspective on that?" Well, it shows respect and it opens the door for real mutual understanding. All right, so having a great conversation is fantastic, but it's really only the beginning. The real growth, the real magic, happens when you pivot from just talking about the past to actually planning for the future. This is where that idea of feed forward really comes to life. This is where you start building that clear path forward, and the key word here is together. Notice how collaborative this whole process is. You're not just telling them what to do, you're asking questions that empower them to find their own solutions, and by agreeing on some concrete actions and a follow-up time, you make sure that this great conversation actually leads to real, tangible change. So, why go through all this trouble? Why does mastering this skill matter so much? Well, because consistent, constructive feedback isn't just another task on a manager's to-do list.
It's basically the fuel for any high-performing team. It's the breakfast of champions.
I love this quote. It's such a powerful insight, right? Just the act of measuring something, of paying attention, makes it better. But when you actually report back on it with supportive feedback, you create this incredible cycle of accelerated growth. People know what's expected, they can see their own progress, and they feel motivated to keep improving.
And look, the data on this is crystal clear. This isn't just some nice-to-have soft skill. We're talking about an 80% jump in engagement for employees who get meaningful feedback every week. Companies that build a culture where this is the norm see a massive boost. Their people feel seen, they feel valued, and they feel invested.
So here's the big takeaway. Let's totally reframe this whole idea in our minds. Let's stop thinking of feedback as this difficult, awkward conversation about the past, and let's start seeing it for what it really is, a supportive act of coaching, a gift to help someone grow. Because when we do that, we build the trust and the psychological safety that allows everyone to thrive. So I'll leave you with this question. What is one growth conversation you can have this week? One conversation to help someone on your team take that next step. You'd be surprised how one small, constructive chat can make all the difference. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.